Welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, that sounds like a Tennessee is 3-0 beer. How's that feel, brother?
Undefeated, baby. Florida week. Where you at, Gators? Surviving. That's what. Hey, I'll tell you right now. If there was a meme for week 3, it was, whew. Am I right? I mean, Arkansas, Florida, Texas A&M. A lot of these teams down to the wire, and they escaped barely.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what college football is this season, Shane. I mean, aside from Georgia, we'll get to Georgia in a minute, but I mean, it's just going to be a scratch and a claw to survive week in, week out. We've already seen some wild upsets all across college football, and I just think that, again, outside of Georgia, I don't know that anyone is playing at a level to where they can't be beat. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Georgia's its own entity at this moment. But I will say this, because I had a little bit of a panic move, because I am a firm believer that the SEC is the best conference in the entire country. Yep. And I'm watching some of these games, and I'm just like, golly, man, do we suck? You know, I mean, I'm watching Missouri, or is it Missouri State? I didn't even memorize the team name. I'm watching them. I'm watching South Florida. I'm watching even Penn State. God awful Penn State. Penn State is not a good team. Auburn's just a bad team.
Right.
And I hate that's the SEC program they got dished this weekend. But I'm watching all this, and I'm thinking to myself, even that last week, Alabama, Texas, you know, in the back of my mind, man, it was planted. Is the SEC having a down year? Talk me back into it, Mike. Talk me off the ledge.
Well, certainly, I mean, that's kind of something I thought myself, Shane. I mean, some of the quarterback play maybe not as good as we're talking. Now, there's, some players better than Stetson Bennett is better than hell. Just about anybody outside of Athens anticipated. But with Anthony Richardson struggling, with, like you said, Auburn, I mean, I don't know why in the hell that was the first SEC on CBS game of the year. Let's throw Penn State into the action. I mean, not that, not
a good look.
No, not at all. And that it made it worse that it's on national television. A&M struggling at quarterback. Yeah, so, I mean, I kind of get that. But, again, man, this is early in the season. And you get that win. It's kind of like we were saying last week about Tennessee Pitt. No one is going to remember how you got that win. It's all about getting it, marching on, going into conference play with a stellar record. And I think overall, I mean, hell, a lot of people, maybe us included a little bit, ready to write off LSU. And after that Florida State nationally televised only game in town, LSU's terrible this year. Yeah. Fast forward 2 weeks, they're 2-1 and looking much, much improved. So I'm trying not to overreact, but I get what you're saying with that. Not an overall great look for the SEC this weekend.
Yeah, I need to overreact a little bit, though, because I have been touting those Bulldogs for a long time, and they embarrassed me. I was like, what are we doing here? We're going to get to that game here in a minute, but this was a victory LSU needed. This is a victory Brian Kelly needed. This is a victory that fan base needed, and it could come at a better time. So kudos to LSU getting that victory, and of course, like I said, we'll talk about it here in a minute. But man, it was just a bizarre kind of weekend.
Well, if you need something to overreact to, Shane, I just want to bring this up. I want to give you credit, brother. 21-9, cousin Shane is against the spread, undefeated on the wager app, 6-0. You can find a link to that in the show notes. But again, hey, challenge us on these wagers. I mean, Shane cannot be beaten as expected. I'm on a 0-2 skid the last 2 weeks. I'm at 3-2 overall. But, man, I'm throwing up our records on the screen here. Shane, 29-4 overall. I am picking games. You're 28-5. I'm 19-11 against the spread. And, again, 21-9 for Cousin Shane, just running away with the field. So that's something to overreact to right there.
I don't know if you can tell, my head's getting bigger, man. It's just printing money over here in East Tennessee. It's an anomaly. I keep waiting for it to mess up, and I thought it was there for a second, against that Alabama game. Nobody should be nervous about Alabama scoring in the fourth quarter against UL Monroe, but I was that guy. I was like, come on, man, give it another score. But, yes, undefeated, that's phenomenal. My bank account is enjoying it, and but it's bound to turn. Maybe it's this week. If not, come on, wager and prove me wrong.
Yeah,
come get my money, Mike.
The one game we both got wrong this weekend. Let's give this team some credit. LSU Tigers at home. Rough start, but it's not how you start, Shane. It's all about how you finish in college football. 31 for them Tigers, 16 for Mississippi State. A rough showing here for them Bulldogs, Shane. And, hey, Mike Leach, he was getting aggressive early in the game, going for it for damn near every fourth down in the ball game. But for some reason, Shane, he made the decision, let's run it up the gut on every 4th and 1 in the ball game. I don't know. They converted the first one, which was on their own 22, I believe. I mean, it was a head-scratching decision, even though they got it. That gave them a little bit of momentum, Shane. LSU had nothing doing. I mean, this was like a 180 game, Shane, where LSU looked like they were getting dominated. They got a little bit momentum right before halftime, but this game was won in the late third, early fourth quarter, Shane. LSU started 0 for 8 on third downs in the ball game.
Yeah.
They finished 6 of 7, and the one they didn't convert, they went for it on fourth down, and they got it. So they literally could not be stopped. Here's the fourth quarter stat, Shane. LSU, 21 points. Mississippi State, 0. Yards, LSU, 175. Mississippi State, 44. Rushing yards, LSU, 117. Mississippi State, 0. Time of possession, LSU, 11 minutes, 20 seconds. MSU, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. This was just like a meltdown of epic proportions here for our hype of Mississippi State, Mike Leach, and Will Rogers. You know what?
Yeah, and one of the things that drove me nuts about this one was it felt like it was on the verge of being a blowout. I texted you, Mike. I told you after that second score, I was like, Mississippi State is about to kick the shit out of LSU. That's what I thought was going to happen, and I was wrong. But it was like LSU kept teeing it up with fumbles and 3 and outs, and it just felt like they had opportunity after opportunity. And like you said, one of the things that drove me nuts was the efficiency of Mississippi State. Here they've been so efficient through week 2. We were saying, no team is running smoother than the Bulldogs right now. And let me show you here: 3 of 14 for third downs, 1 of 4 for fourth downs. And it wasn't that they weren't getting these first downs. It was the play calling. Like you said, it's like you've got the leading passer in the league. We just touted all these different weapons you've got around you as far as receivers, and you're running the rock. Why? Because you've been doing good with the running game the first 2 weeks. You have, but you got there because everybody's afraid of Will Rogers and company, and I have no idea why but I will say this about LSU. They gave them a shot. They gave them an opportunity. And if you let LSU stick around long enough, they're going to make you pay for it. And that's exactly what they did to those Bulldogs.
Right, Shane. And that's why I'm giving out Coach of the Week, Shane. Brian Kelly, them LSU Tigers. Again, it wasn't pretty. The offense wasn't working. They shifted in game, made those adjustments, dominated in the fourth quarter. Of course, Austin Williams, his muffed punt there with 32 seconds left in the third quarter. That was kind of the moment the game flipped because Mississippi State had the momentum. They had just stopped LSU. LSU couldn't do nothing. And then they fumble the ball, get it there. Jaden Daniels scores a touchdown. And I'm giving Jaden Daniels, Shane, clutch player of the week, coming up big in the fourth quarter. We got to hand it to him, man. I believe this is the first time in LSU history, Shane, they started 2 offensive tackles that were both true freshmen. Both their guards are sophomores. I mean, this is an issue, this offensive line. But Jaden Daniels is making plays with his arm, with his feet. He is ninth in the SEC, Shane, in both rushing and passing. I mean, they need him to do everything. He's carrying the offense right now. Otherwise, if not for Jane Daniels, LSU's 1-2 on the season instead of 2-1.
And I'm glad you crowned him, because that's exactly where I think Brian Kelly should be. I think this was a monumental win for him.
Yeah.
Again, I think Mississippi State's a great ball club. I still think they're a top 25 team. And so, in my opinion, LSU got a top 25 win here. Mm-hmm. So this is a great bounce back from that defeat with Florida State, and they're on the right track. They're further along than I thought they would be. So that's a great start for the Tigers. And like you said, the adjustments, because there was a time in this game I thought it was about to get out of hand, and they kept scrapping, they kept fighting. Kelly kept finding opportunities for his boys. It was just a great game for him.
Yeah, and I also want to give one more award out, Shane. Defensive Player of the Week. I'm giving it to Jay Ward, the defensive back for LSU. Made multiple fourth down stops, led the team in tackles, and he had an interception to essentially ice the game for LSU. He was a man amongst boys there, and we got to give a shout out to Malik Neighbors. Shane, he was the guy that kept muffing the punts against Florida State instead of getting down on himself. He emerged in this game. Mm-hmm. You had heard so many great things about him during fall camp, but man, he's more productive than Keyshawn Butte out there for LSU. Yeah. He was making plays time and time again. When Jane Daniels needs to make a play, he looks to Malik Neighbors. So credit him for just a couple of weeks here later. He going from the GOAT to the hero, so to speak, for Malik Neighbors. I love to see turnarounds like that.
Yeah, that's good, man. I like it.
Brian, how far have you come in 13 days?
I said this, I think, at the press conference. The one thing I know about this group for certain, and we're still trying to learn more about each other every day, is they're fighters. They'll fight. And we saw that against Florida State. We were obviously very talented going against a Southern team. That probably wasn't a great glimpse, but I knew that they would fight tonight. The areas that we have to get better at is we have a standard of preparation that has to get better each and every week. And if we continue to work towards that standard of preparation, they're going to be pretty good. But it's going to take, it's not easy. And I think they're starting to believe that. Winning helps. So if we can continue on that realm, I think this team can continue to get better.
Now, how about this one, Shane? The other SEC matchup we had this weekend, it wasn't much of a game. Georgia 48, South Carolina 7. How about this stat, Shane? This is pretty wild. Georgia ran 65 plays in this ball game. Mm-hmm. They had 30 first downs. So, I mean, it's like, what do you – and, that takes away from all the touchdowns they scored in this game. Brock Bowers, absolute beast. He's my offensive player of the week, Shane. 5 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had the 1 rush, which was also a touchdown. Listen to the Georgia drive chart, Shane. Touchdown, 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 punt, field goal, touchdown, 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 field goal. I mean, my goodness, Shane, Georgia is just a machine right now. They had to do it in a rowdy environment. Stetson Bennett's throwing his guts up there. Didn't even matter. Didn't even faze them at all. They did a masterful job just taking this crowd completely out of the ball game, and it looked like half the stadium emptied out by about the third quarter.
Yeah, so did my living room, Mike. Nobody wanted to watch this damn game, but I was not turning it because it was SEC football, and it was not pretty, man. And I feel bad. I feel bad because South Carolina is being crowned right now a shitty team, and They're not. They just played some really tough programs. Arkansas, they played Georgia now. I mean, they've really – I mean, there's not a tougher schedule through 3 games, in my opinion, than the South Carolina Gamecocks. They've got some momentum. One of the best things they did, brother, was that opening. If there was anything good from that game, it was the first 12 minutes to kind of show you the environment they have down there. That place is electric. I can't wait to go watch a game down there. It should be fun. It looks like a toxic environment if you're a away team. It's just unfortunate that Georgia is just absolutely loaded. And they did whatever they wanted. They really did, Mike. They didn't have to show off, and it felt like they kind of kept the game plan conservative. But I'm with you. This was the Bauer show. MVP, no doubt about it. This guy took over, and he's got some unusual speed. I'm watching this. I don't know what that. It felt like an 80-yard touchdown. I don't know. It was a long one, but I'm watching. I'm like, man, is this guy fast or is everyone else slow? I just couldn't figure it out, but it didn't matter. He is just an absolute animal, and I thought honestly he was going to take a little bit of a backseat this year with Eric Gilbert coming in, and all these other weapons that Stetson's now got around him.
Darnell Washington.
But, yeah, I mean seriously, I thought. When I was looking at the prize picks, and I didn't do it, thank God, but I was like, man, I'm taking the under. I think it was like 900 yards receiving for the year or something, or 800, something like that for the year. And I was like, give me the under,
He's about there already.
He got it. Yeah, he got it. He got it on Saturday. So I'm glad I didn't take that bet, but just an absolute animal and a great tool for this offense.
Yeah, and I forgot to even mention, Shane, this is the most lopsided victory in this series ever. They've been playing forever. This is, I think, South Carolina. This is the team they've played. Clemson's number one, but outside of Clemson, Georgia's the team they played the most. This is the worst loss, just going by the points of the Shane Beamer era. Previously, that was 30 points.
Yeah.
This is obviously 42 here. So, man, just a rough day. Spencer Rattler, 13 of 25, 118, no touchdowns, 2 picks. They needed, their touchdown came basically as time expires with all the backups in. It was just kind of like a mercy thing. But I'm right there with you, Shane. I'm not trying to rub salt in the wound, but, there's many Gamecocks or maybe they're not jumping off the ledge, but they got their toes on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I understand the schedule's going to get much. The entire schedule is brutal for the Gamecocks, but there's not another Georgia on it. There's no Alabama on it. And I guarantee you, Shane, this is not the first time that this Georgia team is going to beat a SEC team 48-7. There may have that at halftime in a couple of them, except maybe minus the 7.
That's exactly right. I was a little discouraged by the play calling again. I know that sounds like a repeat from last 2 years, last 2 games. Actually, last 2 years now that I think about it. But it felt like, why are we trying to establish a run against the Georgia Bulldogs? We've got Rattler here, and I know he made some terrible throws, but that we question some of them, like that wheel route to my boy. I don't know if maybe he was supposed to come back or something like that. You just never really know in those situations. But I thought with Georgia they would take more shots, and I felt like we didn't get that, and so I was kind of surprised with the play calling there. I guess that's what discouraged me most about South Carolina. Not that they weren't scrapping, because they were fighting tooth and nail, but it just felt like there wasn't a lot of creativity on the offensive side. Yeah. And there was, of course, Georgia, they just got behind their big uglies and played Georgia football. So, but it's over. Like you said, we're on to the next one. Georgia, don't crown them just yet, but I'm glad I took the over on the regular season wins. I think it was 10.5. So I'm sitting pretty there.
Yeah, now that you made me think of it, Shane, it was just wild. We'd have a 3rd and long. We're taking the ball out of Spencer's hands. Things like that bothered me in this ball game.
Mm-hmm.
We said leading up to this, he's got to play a flawless game. He's got to throw, I think I said 6 touchdowns to make this a competitive game. That's about what he needed, and that's about what he was short. They did try a fake punt, which was executed fabulously. I mean, that's what you want to see, other than winning a game, being more competitive. But they were being aggressive. They were trying things like this, because that's what you got to do against a team of Georgia's caliber. You have got to, have big swings, because you ain't going to play conservative and upset the Georgia Bulldogs. But let me ask you this, Shane. I thought this was a lot of people took issue with old Shane Beamer after this game. Well, I don't want to say a lot. I'd say it was about 50-50. I think some people already, they're already out on somebody, and then they see something and it just reinforces it. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let's play this clip, Shane. Any give up in the locker room he was asked after this one?
You sense any give up in the locker room?
Hell no. What kind of questions that, Phil? We're 1-2. We're 1-2. We got a bunch of fighters in that room, and give up. That's not a part of this football program. Get out of here, man. With that, no.
All right, Shane. So what do you think? I mean, I think he's always been a fiery, heated guy, especially after in these post game, because it means something to him. You know, I would, but I think it's the perfect way to answer this. I mean, hell no, you're not going to say your team gave up and things of that nature.
What do you want him to say? I mean, I want him to take up for my kids. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
I get it, but Beamer's got a thing to him, and let's not ignore it. I mean, you see him on the sideline. He's not really, some people are good with cameras. You know, I'm not. I'm just like Beamer. I'm not. I'm a bumbling idiot. I don't belong. I got a voice for the radio, but Beamer. They catch him in these little tantrums, and he was mad because people wouldn't get off. I think they were honoring his dad. He's like, "Get his old ass off my field," I think these little tantrums, and then the celebration. You remember on the week 1, he had that little dance around the circle thing. These things get out. They become internet memes. Nobody wants their coach to be. He's the new Dan Mullen. Let's call it like it is. Dan would say these clips in the press conferences. We'd cut them. We won't tell you exactly how we got here, but we'll just put this thing out, and then next thing you know, it's an internet meme, and it just goes viral. So
yeah,
I hate to say it, but that's who he is. But what else he is? He's a player's coach, and these kids love him. The kids absolutely love him. The kids want to play for him. They're going to keep recruiting well there. It's a great environment. South Carolina is building something. They're not there now, so why are you expecting it? But look what he got. He went to Oklahoma and got the best damn quarterback in the transfer. Right. I mean, and he brought him to Columbia. Take a second and think about that for a second. Columbia, I get in this part where I think Knoxville's the greatest town in the world, and I can't believe nobody wants to play for Tennessee Volunteers. But the older I get, the more I realize we're not the greatest place in the earth, but we could be, And Columbia, you're not there either. But your coach managed to pull these kids there. He's managing to get these kids to recruit and come to campus. That's what you want. So, you don't want him to be an internet meme. I get that, but you don't want him to not back his boys up either. So right. I have no qualm with this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know you guys obviously took a few risks, at least early in the game, with the fake punt and things like that. I mean, was that kind of part of the game plan to come out and take some shots like that early and against a team like this?
Yeah, we felt like it. We need with us missing 5 starters on defense, just from a depth standpoint. If Georgia was out there for a ton of plays today, it was going to be kind of like the bowl game last year against North Carolina. We needed to control the ball and score points. And then take some chances. And we didn't really have to take chances against North Carolina in that bowl game. But, yes, we felt like we were going to have to go for some 4th downs today, which we did. And then we felt like we were going to need to steal a possession, special teams-wise as well. So, yeah, the fake punt was something that had a general idea if we came out like in that formation, how they would line up. And our guys did a good job of executing that. But, yeah, that was something that we wanted to get to early in the game. And at that point, I think it was 14-0, I think, and we hadn't stopped them yet. And I wasn't going to put our defense back out there for another drive at that point.
Do you think quarterback's a spot where you guys need to look at things competition-wise, or do you feel Spencer's still the guy moving forward?
I think Spencer will tell you he's got to play better. The interception to Juju was – they did a good job of covering it. Similar play that they hit us on later in the game to the running back, and got to throw it out of bounds. He was trying to, back shoulder it in there, which we don't need to be throwing a back shoulder fade on that route. Just everything that we do is we evaluate after every game, and we compete. And there's a lot of us that have to coach better and play better.
Now, Shane.
What I do have a question, though, Mike, is did Paul Feinbaum text you or anything?
No, I think Georgia, they're just on to the next one. You know what I mean?
They
I
don't even
got
care.
more Kentucky people in my mentions right now. We'll get to them in a minute than I do Georgia for predicting this upset. Which, hey, credit to them dogs. They're, I'm not in their head, so to speak. You know what?
Yeah. they done deleted you off, Mike. I ain't got time for that.
Well, I'll tell you who else, almost got deleted from his fan base here was Jimbo Fisher, but he rallied the troops here. Big nationally televised game, Shane. We got to give him credit. Texas A&M wins 19-9 over Miami. Is kind of an ugly game in my opinion, but this defense is stellar, and that has been the case basically all season. I think against Appalachian, they got worn out, Shane. They were on the field the entire damn game. But insert Max Johnson into the lineup. Not that he was fantastic, 10 of 20, 140 yards and a touchdown, but he was efficient. And he managed to get the ball to A-Chain, who was just A-Chain and Anaya Smith, Shane. They're the reason A&M won this game aside from the defense, because they were difference makers on the field. They were better than anybody Miami had. A-Chain, 88 rushing, 4 catches, 42 yards, and a big touchdown. Anaya Smith, 4 catches, 74 yards. And that may not jump out to you, but in a slog fest like this, Shade, those are big-time numbers for this offense. And, hey, we said it, Shane. If they lost this game, the season's over. We are a long, long way from competing back in the SEC where we anticipated in the preseason. But this is the first step, Shane. It's baby steps. You're not going to get there overnight. And A&M, to their credit, now they go into conference play with a little bit momentum and solid quarterback play. What was your thoughts on A&M's win here?
This was garbage, Mike. This was a god-awful game to watch. I feel bad for Texas A&M fans. They have to sit and watch that pathetic offense. This defense is legit. Mm-hmm. This defense is right up there with the Georgia Bulldogs right now, and thank God they got them, because if not, they'd be 0-3 right now. Yeah. Because this offense is lethargic. It's embarrassing. They're getting 200 yards a week, and I'm watching it, and it's like, besides Devon Achane, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. There is no pulse. If they didn't have a muffed punt, they would not have scored a touchdown. They probably would have lost this game. Yeah. The fact that you needed a special teams moment to beat Miami. Miami is not a good – they're an okay team, but they're not a good team. They're a good ACC team, but that is it, man. I just feel bad. And because you sit here and you watch these games. I'm watching them all. Everybody's watching them. Mm-hmm. I'm watching Bobby Petrino slinging the rock. I'm watching South Florida playing some offense. I'm watching the Volunteers score 60, Bama score 50. It's just points after points, and they're everywhere. They're all in the SEC. And guess who's getting no points? Jimbo freaking Fisher. Hang it up. If you can't do it, you're a great head coach. You're a great recruiter. You have no problems. And maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's it's just Texas A&M is recruiting these people. But the fact of the matter is, you got some talent down there. Get a coordinator, man. Release the reins. Let someone else do this, because your offense is not cutting it anymore. It's not. And everybody's got it. Everybody knows exactly what you're going to do. Texas A&M is going to have a long, long season, and a very sad season if they keep going the route they're going. Max Johnson, I think he had 7 completions. Get the hell out of here. Who wants – this is SEC football. This ain't 1980s high school. You know what I'm saying? This is just hot garbage right now, and I hate it for A&M. Yes, I'm glad they got the victory, but this is a team that, if we're going down a dark alley with Texas A&M roster and Miami roster, we'd beat the shit out of the Hurricanes. But the fact that we're on this field, we make it competitive because we're not playing great offense, and it's just sad, sad, sad. So again, I apologize for the Aggies, and I apologize for anybody that watches. And if national media is listening to this thing, do not put these damn games on at 9:00. I barely stayed awake. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't fast forward it because there's nothing else on. I didn't record it, so they should not be. Texas A&M should be noon here on out.
Well, just to clarify, Shane, Max Johnson, 10 completions.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. He at least hit double digits, but man, it doesn't say much for what's going on there.
He averaged 7 yards of reception. That's the 7.
Okay.
Averaged 7 yards of reception. Golly.
It doesn't say much for the culture or maybe the lack of urgency, Shane, that, the biggest news there in College Station on Saturday, 4 key freshmen suspended from the game. Evan Stewart, our number 1 receiver. Marshall, our other 5-star incoming freshman. Denver Harris, the speedster there, he was playing GTA in real life there in the parking lot. And Smoke Bowie, all suspended, did not participate in this game. And it's great that you won the game, and I know they're young, they're freshmen. We shouldn't be too harsh on them, but my God, Shane, whatever the hell they did, this was literally the worst time to do it. I mean, whatever they did, I credit Jimbo for at least stepping up and suspending them because, my God, Shane, I mean, his job's on the line. Everything's on the line, and whatever happened, but can't have that this type of way. And I think that speaks to behind the scenes the lack of focus, the lack of just being locked in for such an important game.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what else you want me to say. I'm tired of blaming youth. I really am. And Achane is it. And if he gets hurt, what happens to Texas A&M? This kid is not built to take as many hits as he's doing right now. Mm-hmm. He really is a third down specialist, but he's been put in a 3-down role, and I don't know. I mean, he's one bang up from this being a total disaster. And I will say, I felt like the offense ran a little bit better with Max Johnson. I don't know if you got the same vibe. Yep. There was a few times I think he should have pulled it, and that's something he's going to learn the more games he plays. And, because he don't forget, he went a whole season with LSU, so he's not new to this, but it's been a minute since he's led an offense. So I don't want to hang him out to dry completely, but I think his coach is doing some of that for us already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Aggies did have 16 first downs, but were only 4 of 12 on third down. But here's silver lining, Shane. Bryce Foster, the center, was back in the action, and that's really seemed to help the running game. 32 carries, 124 yards total, and a touchdown. You got to be doing better than that, but that's a hell of a start compared to where you were the last couple of weeks. So, again, silver lining, maybe offensive line and running game will get better as Bryce Foster is back in the lineup, Max Johnson under center.
And I'm going to give my boy DJ Durkin, defensive coordinator, I'm going to give him coordinator of the week because I'm telling you, Texas A&M defense is legit, and it just – if they were undefeated and they were scoring 40, 50 points, he would get more recognition. But the fact these games are close, the only reason they're close is because of the defense. And that's DJ, and he's got these guys, I mean, they're playing like crazy out there, like their hair's on fire, and I love that. So, and if it weren't for him, there's no way they would have beat Miami. I mean, there's a lot of times, a lot of red zone opportunities here. They kept them out. So, DJ, you're my boy this week.
Jimbo, what was it about Max's week this week that separated himself to earn the
Well, he just
start
played
today?
with very good consistency, knowing what we were doing in the game plan. He played very consistent, was accurate with the ball, and made good decisions.
And how difficult is it as a coach to make that kind of call 2 weeks
I'm
ago?
sorry,
How difficult is it as a coach to go ahead and make that call?
Well, it's very difficult because, listen, quarterbacks take all the glory and all the blame. And I'm telling you right now, by far. And then Haynes had some things he could have done better and played better, and I've said that before. But it was not all him what was going on. And the guys around him could have made some plays at times and blocked and did things too. So, and we still got to get a heck of a lot better on offense. But I thought that was what was best for us to win the game, and that's what we did. But Haynes is still very much in our thinking and what's going on. Practiced very well, and so did Max, and so did Connor.
And for what you
after what happened last week, what do you think was the key for your team to be able to bounce back and not let that linger?
Block out all the clutter, move on, go to the next play, go the next day. Don't listen to anybody, and move on. You control what happens to you, and just live in your own little cubby hole, live in your own world, and block everything out. Go ahead.
Can you also talk about the suspensions and how disappointing it was to have to do something like that whenever you're already trying to get back on track?
It was, and it's had a violation of team rules, and that we'll move on, and we handle it the way we need to handle it.
Coach, can you talk about?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Can you talk about the shot in the arm that this gives you going into conference play next week?
Well, yeah. I mean, you had to win this game. It was a tough game, coming off a tough loss, and you got. Hey, it doesn't get any easier. So, It's a shot we needed. We didn't need another shot the other way. So we got to keep getting better and just go Saulwood and see what Arkansas is like and hope we play a great Arkansas team and play them very well.
Coach will stay back in the lights to the right.
And then who they got next week, Shane? Arkansas, maybe caught looking ahead a little bit. Man, we had almost a heart attack here in Fayetteville because them Hogs, Shane, survived Missouri State 38-27. The Razorbacks did dominate the fourth quarter 21-3, but that, you kind of anticipated they'd dominate the entire game like that. This was one where, Missouri State kind of came out and they scored. You're thinking, oh, that's interesting. But the points kept adding up, and Arkansas was doing little on offense. Well, what they were really doing, Shane, was turning the ball over. KJ Jefferson fumbled the ball away. There was another time they were literally scoring a touchdown. The guy drops the ball. Missouri State falls on it. It just felt like one of those games like, what the hell's going on? Are we gonna lose this damn game to Missouri State? And maybe the most oh shit play of the game, Bobby Petrino dialed one up on 4th and short. You think they made it look like it was going to be a short run. It was a pop over the middle, totally wide open, big gainer, gave Missouri State a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you're just saying to yourself, man, this is going to be one of the biggest upsets of the college football season. But as we've come to expect, Shane, when Arkansas needs something done, they got two guys that no one else has got. KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders. How about the stat line for Rocket Sanders, Shane? 22 carries, 167 rushing yards and a touchdown, 2 catches, 75 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown was huge. Bryce Stevens, punt return, gave Arkansas the lead, and they kept the lead for the game. His punt return touchdown is why I'm naming Bryce Stevens Special Teams Player of the Week. That was, it was just one of those moments where it uplifted the entire team. And, once Arkansas had the lead in this game, you felt confident they were not going to surrender it. And they certainly didn't. Again, they dominated the fourth quarter, 21-3, yards 152-42. Complete domination aside from that little pop pass late in the game. But, it's great we won the game, Shane. But here is the real issue at Arkansas right now. They missed a key opportunity to rest some players. Because here's who Arkansas's got the next couple weeks, Shane. A&M, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But, hey, that you can't just walk through A&M. Alabama, at Mississippi State, at BYU, which is apparently pretty good this year. This would have been a golden opportunity to get some rest for guys like Rocket Sanders, KJ Jefferson, some of your first-string defense, but they weren't able to do it because they were in a dogfight.
I'll tell you what, man. Can we name Bobby Petrino Coach of the Week? Because when do we forgive this guy? I'm going to be honest with you, Mike. When does this guy get another shot in the SEC? Does he get another shot? I mean,
we'll get to it in just a moment here, Shane, but there might be an opening here on the Plains before you know it.
I'm just saying because, I mean, obviously the situation was bad, but that was so many years ago,
Right.
12 years ago, that was a bad situation. But in 2022, they're a little more forgiving these days. So I'm just kind of curious when do we lift that dark shroud that I mean, he's already doing the Arkansas, what is it, the Little Rock Touchdown Club, he's kind of weaseled his way back into society here. So you would think he'd have I'm telling you, it was a great coached ball game. He came in, they were ready, boys, and they were up 17-0. I thought, there was a real panic. And I know there was because I was online watching all these Hogs going crazy and they couldn't believe it. But kudos to Arkansas. Those games are always tough. Man, you feel like you're watching one that you just know you're supposed to lose. And that's what it kind of felt like. But because everything just kept happening, like the fumbles and all that. But they just kept fighting and fighting, and they got back into this thing. So kudos to Arkansas, even though they didn't get the rest that, like you said, they probably should have. They really needed. They showed some true fight, and they it wasn't pretty, but they pieced this thing together and they got them a victory down there. And And you need it, man, because there's so much momentum in Arkansas, and maybe this is the wake-up call you needed, because we for 3 weeks now we've been telling you how good you are, and we've been patting you on the back, but damn, you got to get your lunch pail and get to work, and that's the type of atmosphere that Sam Pittman has created. I think we got away from it this week. We got a little too big for our britches, so you made it through, guys. I know a lot of them probably called in Monday. They're still sick that it was even that close, but I tell you, brother, they got a tall order coming in this week, and they got to be better prepared.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, Shane, all those games, there's only one home game, and it's Alabama, of course. So, I mean, that's going to be an incredible task, but, neutral field, if you want to call it that, in Arlington, at Mississippi State, at BYU. So this is going to be this next 4 weeks is going to determine how good of a season the Arkansas Razorbacks are really going to have. And, again, they missed an opportunity, but maybe, like you said, maybe it's a wake-up because, hey, maybe they'll stop reading their press clippings if that's what was going on, and maybe this coaching staff gets a little bit more locked in. Sam Pittman admits, in the postgame, got out-coached a little bit.
I remember we went in there and beat Cincinnati, and nobody was happy. Nobody was this. Well, Cincinnati's a really good team, and so we're not going to have a problem getting up for the next few. The name on the side of the hat, pretty significant. So, but I don't in any way want to not give Missouri State everything they deserve, because they were, I don't know if their team wasn't better than us today because we beat them, but Coach was better than me today, and I got to get that fixed.
Coach Rocky Sanders, 22 carries, 167 yards. But the one I wanted to ask about was looked like a shovel pass that goes up the middle 73 yards. I don't think I've ever seen a shovel pass up the middle. It goes up the middle for 73 yards.
Well, you about did in that one, because they were bumping him and this, that, and other. He just got through there about like that, and then that's why his mama named him Rocky. But I mean, for him, to have 200 and I don't know what he had, 240 something yards of total offense. It was unfortunate for him because he'll take it personally. I mean, good players do. About, we lost the ball down there on the one. He'll take it personal, but he did, because then he come back. He said, "Hey, I got to make up for it." Good ones do that. But yeah, it was just down the pipe shovel with him, and the old line blocked it up, and then he just took off. It was beautiful. We needed it bad.
But all right, Shane, man, I've been putting this one off, but man, just devastating performance here for the SEC. Penn State goes into the Plains, comes away with a 41-12 victory over the Tigers. And it's pretty wild, Shane, how these Auburn beat people and people at SEC Network. Oh, Bryan Harsin, man, he's changed his tune. He's doing well. I know it was a horrific loss here, but one loss, they're like, man, how fast can we get Hugh Freeze down here? How fast can we get this? Can we get Deion Sanders into the SEC? They've already got Bryan Harsin buried there on the Plains. I'm not saying that this is the kind of look that's going to keep him around much longer, but I just think that's kind of funny because really this game came down to turnovers, Shane. Auburn, 4 turnovers in the ball game. Didn't force a single one. They haven't forced a turnover all season yet. Penn State went wild on the ground, 245 rushing yards. And, man, there's just not much to say. Auburn has nothing at quarterback. And once Penn State, started getting a little momentum, they just kind of caved, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the recap. Next game? No, just kidding. This was a tough one, man, because I wanted to believe, I really did, that Penn State was not good and that Auburn, was underestimated. I don't know. Maybe I'm the Bryan Harsin thing. You kind of feel bad for the guy because he's dealt some bad cards there, but you're paid a lot of money, and you're paid a lot of money to win games. And especially this one. This is a huge monumental game because it was CBS. It was just it was the game. It was this is the highlight. The fans were there. Everybody, I mean, it was pumped up. I would say this: the atmosphere was legit. The fans didn't let down. It was a violent place to play, and I think that's what held them in for the first 2 quarters there. And I held hope that they were going to be able to do it. But once the floodgates opened, you realize real quick just how thin this team is, and that's what's really going to hurt them when we hit SEC play. You know, they're gonna play you tough for a couple of quarters, but you know, after you get past that, you know, we don't have the competitive depth that Auburn's used to having down there. So, yeah, it's just real unfortunate for that team because.
Yeah. That's one thing that stood out, Shane, as I watched. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it just seems like Auburn is like lacking, and it's, you know, it's not really that a surprise to us. Hell, we picked them 7th in the West, but I can't remember the last time we've seen an Auburn team that was lacking, you know, dangerous talent outside of a handful of players here. I mean, we know how good Tank is, Jarquez Hunter, but I mean, there's literally not a receiver or tight end that threatens you. The line of scrimmage is an issue. Derek Hall's a beast, but besides that, Owen Papo's pretty good. I mean, the defense is, you know, Auburn for years and years and years. That was what they had. They had elite defense, particularly on the line.
Yeah,
and they just don't have that right now.
No, they don't, and it's just 240. I mean, there's a lot of old heads down there in Auburn. They can't believe it. No one gives up 250 yards rushing against Auburn Tigers. That's just growing up. You never heard that because, like you said, it was all about the defense. It was all about the linebacking core. It was a machine putting athletes in the NFL. That's just what they did, especially on that side of the ball. And then here lately, it's just, I mean, they were thrashing them, and I hate that. I really do.
Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like to me, Shane. I mean, I don't know if you saw Charles Barkley was down there. I believe SEC Nation was down there. I mean, it was like so much hype into this game and this atmosphere. It's like they were trying to will this team that they knew was, you know, an underdog to Penn State. They were trying to will them to victory because if they could just get this one, that would maybe get the ball rolling here going into SEC play. Instead, it's just a terrible, terrible loss. And now you got Missouri coming into town, which, I mean, that if you lose to them, by God, everybody will be out on you. But it just seems like they put all their eggs into this basket, and it was a nightmare for them. You know what?
Well, and it doesn't help national media starting to pile on. I think short of Jimbo, if Jimbo was doing his thing, Bryan may be already out. I really think so. But that seat's really hot, man. It's really hot. And in the offseason, I don't know if you remember, but I told you, keep an eye after this Missouri game. If they drop Mizzou, don't be surprised if it's the last game Bryan does down there in the Plains.
Yeah.
Yes, Bryan, this results tonight or today could generate some talk about your job security. How do you handle that personally, and how do you handle that? How do you help your team and your coaching staff deal with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, number one, you know, I'm always coaching for this football team, all right, and these players, number one. And you know, I can't control that. I can control, you know, what I do each and every day. What I've always done is coach for this team, these players, these coaches, make sure I'm doing my job, having our team prepared and all that. And, you know, I don't control any of those other things other than what I do and each and every day. So, and that's been no different since I've been a GA to being a head football coach. You know, I've operated the same way and had the same mindset. So we put more expectations on ourselves than anybody else. All right, and that's always been that way. So at the end of the day, I'm disappointed for our football team. And my job is to make sure that we put together a plan and put a football team out there that can go compete and play at a high level. And, you know, that's always the expectations. So the standard needs to be better than what it was, and that's really all we're going to focus on. And, you know, and for our football team, it's the same thing. I tell those guys that. And I think the lessons in all this is, you know, when you're in it, when you're in the arena, which is what we do, all right, we're the ones that are in the arena each and every week, all right? We're the ones that put the work in each and every week, all right? That's what we can control. And, you know, I love being a part of that. I love putting plans together and processes and all those things so that we can do that. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, this is why we get a chance to do what we do, because we're good at it.
And I believe in this team, and I believe in what we're doing, and we got to be better at it. So, at the end of the day, that's all I ever focus on.
All right, Shane. Well, speaking of a machine, we got to talk about your red hot Vols, Shane, 63-6 over Akron. How about it? And how about this stat, Shane? I thought you'd appreciate this. Both these teams, they ran exact same number of plays, 70 plays.
Yeah.
Tennessee, with those 70, though, got 676 yards. Akron got 276, so 400-yard differential. It's pretty massive. And I love looking at these drive charts, Shane. Tennessee's drive chart. First possession, missed a field goal. That wasn't so good. But then touchdown, 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 punt, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I mean, this was with 3 different quarterbacks they played. I know Akron's not great, but my goodness, how could you be anything but impressed by Tennessee and their offensive fireworks they displayed over the weekend? You know what?
Let me ask you, Mike, does Texas A&M score 63 points this year?
I think they'll get there. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm messing with them. Mike, I mean, we can't really say much about this game because I'm saying there's a little sadness. I don't know what's going on with Tillman.
Right.
One of the worst things, and I'm not saying that that's what they were doing, but there were some really low hits, felt dirty at times. And, we had a couple of guys get banged up, and that's what you don't want to have during an Akron game.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do want to have is a lot of points and a lot of fun, and these kids had both of that. We were able to pull the starters out, thank God, in the second half, give them a breather. But what I like about it, if you look at the stats, man, what I like is 57-yard long. This is Hyatt, 57. Keaton, 57. White, 47. Merrill, 38. These are 38-yard receptions and touchdowns, and that's stretching the field. That's what Heupel wants to do. We didn't really get to do a lot of that during the first couple of weeks, but I just think them developing that long ball is going to open up underneath, and this Tennessee Volunteer team, brother, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is just humming. I mean, it is a dangerous. I thank God I'm a Vol fan because I would not want to face this team right now. I wouldn't.
Well, Shane, I'm glad you brought up injuries because that gives me a perfect opportunity to break into the Guardian Brace injury update. Proud sponsor of the show. Some SEC football fans out here sponsoring the show. Guardian Brace has developed the next generation of knee braces called Rehabilitators. Rehabilitators are rehabilitative wearable technology engineered to reduce and eliminate knee pain, Shane. All you got to do, you got to wear this brace 3 hours a day for 90 days. They sent one over to us, Shane. I got this bad boy on. My knee is feeling great. And if anybody of the listeners out there, if you got an old ACL injury, you got meniscus or bone on bone in your knee, you got chronic knee pain, this Guardian Rehabilitator could be your solution. So visit them now, freebody.io. You can find that in the show notes for a risk-free 30-day trial, Shane. These rehabilitators are covered by insurance, and you can learn more at 727-526-0108. And again, that website, Shane, is www.freebody.io.
Hey, Mike, we're getting older, man. I'm telling you. You try. It's a 30-day free trial. Just try it out. And if your knee doesn't feel better after 30 days, just send the thing back. But I'm telling you right now, my uncle swears by these things. Just try the brace for 30 days, and I guarantee you'll start feeling better.
And we hope, Shane, that old Cedric Tillman, he don't need one because this is going to be key to this week in the SEC injury report. Not only Tennessee, who Jabari Small, the running back, also got banged up in this ball game.
I know.
They both left the field, did not return, so that's going to be something to watch. But also, we'll get down to Florida in just a minute. But Anthony Richardson, Shane, appeared very limited at times during the South Florida game. These couple of injuries could be huge in this upcoming matchup. Shane, College Game Day announced already they are coming to Rocky Top, Shane, for Tennessee, Florida. What could go wrong? Checker Nealon, that's coming back in the smoky gray jerseys. I don't think that's...
Bring it all.
I don't think
Bring it all out, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be just a sight to behold here on Rocky Top this weekend. This is what Josh Heupel and company have been building towards, Shane. It's going to be the biggest recruiting weekend that they have had.
Coach. Hey, good solid win tonight. All three phases did some really positive things. Our fan base just absolutely electric. Best vol walk I've ever been a part of tonight, and obviously sellout crowd, energy, the noise, all a huge part of the football game in the very beginning. A lot of fun to play in front of our fans, man, for our staff and our players. We all appreciate what they did, and so a lot of good things tonight.
Here on Tennessee. So we'll have all week to talk about the game, but we got to talk about their opponent, Shane. Florida. My word, Shane. I made this joke, but it's totally true. Utah's playoff chances are getting hurt every time Florida takes the football field this year. And they're just hanging by a thread if they're going off of Florida as a quality win, because they nearly lost at home 31-28 to South Florida. And make no mistake, Shane, this is not Florida State. This is not Miami. This is not even UCF when they were undefeated. This team already got blown out once this season. They are not that good of a team. But Anthony Richardson continues to struggle as a passer, multiple interceptions. He had a really bad goal line interception in this game. He's had multiple. He's got more tackles than he has touchdown passes. That's a popular stat going around. But
I saw it.
Here's probably the most disturbing, Shane. Florida allowed 286 rushing yards to USF. Never even really heard of this team. They won the game, though, because they had a pick six, so that was good. And there was a really bad snap on South Florida late in the game while they were driving to potentially win this ball game. Here's what Florida's offense did in the second half, Shane. 2 interceptions, 2 3-and-outs, and a 1 touchdown drive that won them the ball game, essentially. But if not for that one, I mean, we're talking about what in the hell happened to Florida? They're one of the biggest disappointments right now, even though they won the game. This feels almost like a loss, doesn't it?
No, Mike. I mean, I don't want to say almost like a loss because you won.
Yeah.
And one of the good things for the Florida Gators is the fact you faced a quarterback that's going to be very similar to the one that you see this coming up week. So as far as the defense, it didn't play well against the run. Well, guess what? Volunteers are not too good at the run right now. So, I mean, there's some silver linings. I don't want to say they should just jump off the cliff here, Mike, because they did get a victory.
I think I am, just because I picked Florida second in the East,
Yeah, maybe that's you, because I told you this is a classic trap game. In fact, one of the most I said the score would be Florida 38 and South Florida 28.
Yep.
Well, it was 31-28. I was pretty damn close here. And the majority of the comments from Gator fans was like, how the hell you think South Florida's going to score 28 points? We didn't do that against Utah. We didn't do it, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. But look at it, This was a trap game. You're thinking about the Tennessee Volunteers. Anthony Richardson, what concerns me, man, if I'm a Gator fan, is the fact he is banged up. And it's obvious.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of times he pulled up, lame and started limping a little bit. And it's I'm not saying he's got a track record, but he's got a track record of getting hurt. So that's my concern for the Florida Gators, is that – and maybe I'm not saying that's having a direct impact on his passing, but, I mean, it has to. I mean, think about it. If he ain't wearing a Guardian brace, he's probably hurting out there, So I think, Mike, what's got to happen here is this team's got to get back to their fundamentals. They got to get back to Florida defense. You want to talk about like Auburn? That's what they were known for. It was just aggressive defense up front. They were able to stop the run, never had to worry about it, but also working on the passing game. That's what these fans want. They want to move the chains. They want to stretch the field. They're struggling. I thought this would be a good week to try it, and they failed epically. But, at least they did give it a fighting chance.
Well, the problem with that, Shane, and I agree with you, you make a good point, but they just are lacking depth, particularly on that defensive side. So they are in potentially for a really, really tough matchup with Tennessee, and particularly – I want to give this guy a shout out because he's been playing well. I believe his name's Watson, that big defensive lineman they got, Shane, who's like 400 pounds. I mean, hey, I'll be praying for him this week, Shane, because every time he's on the field, Heupel's going to say, all right, let's just go warp speed. We got to get this big man, going up and down the field. And
no substitutions. No
exactly.
Substitutions.
I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be able to play outside of goal line situations the way Tennessee goes so fast. So, I'm not putting it out there. I hope we don't do this because it's so cheesy, but I'm just letting you know, brother, we could have another record-setting injury day with the guys not really injured, if you know what I'm saying. I could certainly see that coming on Rocky Top next week when Florida comes to town.
I can't believe you're body shaming on that SEC podcast with co-host cousin Shane. Oh, sometimes I should cramp up during the shows in case I make a bad joke or something. We can have a redo.
No, I wasn't even talking about him. I'm just saying the whole team in general.
No, there's going to be a ton of cramps coming, man. It's going to be 90. I mean, these guys did not cramp once in Gainesville, Florida, but they come up here in Knoxville, Tennessee. They're gonna have tough time.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was watching the South Carolina game and they made a comment about the air conditioning units and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's got the air all the way down. They don't want you to get cramped up. They don't want you to be hot and bothered. That locker room's gonna be ice cold, so you can't blame the injuries. But you're gonna see them Saturday.
Yep. Well, Shane, we've been on a little bit of a downer because it was not a great week for the SEC. But one of the bright spots, Shane, Vanderbilt goes on the road and beats Northern Illinois 38-28. They were an underdog, outright underdog, so they won this game. And I got to give it to you, Shane. This kid, A.J. Swan, the freshman quarterback, he's my breakout player of the week. 18 of 28, 255 passing yards, 4 touchdowns in his first career start. You're thinking, what the hell? Mike Wright's not on the field. He leads the SEC in touchdowns. Well, we know why now. This A.J. Swan kid is legit. Ray Davis, 116 rushing yards, a touchdown. Will Shepherd, how about this stat line, Shane? 10 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Vanderbilt jumped out to a nice lead. Northern Illinois jumped out to a lead. I mean, this was a back-and-forth style game. Rowdy environment, but hey, I'm sitting here saying they're world beaters or anything, but we got to hand it to Vanderbilt in the strides they are making in the SEC under Clark Lee. Love to see it.
Dude, I told you. I made the comment, this is one of the best games I saw Saturday, and it really was. They were down. They never gave up. This Swan kid is legit. I can't. Yeah. I send you every Swan joke I had that night, Swan dive, stop looking at me, Swan. It's like anything, everything I can do. This kid, you watch an athlete like this, and I'm trying not to overreact, because if he bombs next week, I don't want people to say, "Well, there's your hero, Shane," But I'm watching. I'm like, how does a kid like this, get past Missouri?
Yeah.
How does a kid like this get past, some of these teams that have struggling quarterback and land at Vanderbilt? It doesn't matter. He's there now, and he played lights out.
Yeah.
I would still like to see Mike get out there. I mean, the kid's a freak athlete, so if he's not going to be quarterback, I still like to see him either in a receiving role or even a wildcat or something, because and maybe they implement that at some time, but it was beautiful play calling. He was cool, calm, collective. He didn't look like a freshman out there. And if you didn't get the chance to watch it, check the highlights. I mean, again, Vanderbilt, it's weird because you're not used to a Vanderbilt being able to score points. Now, they can't stop you. They really can't. They got one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life, but their offense is legit, and they really, similar to like Missouri State here, or is that what it was? I keep calling it something else.
Yeah, Missouri State.
Yeah, it felt like a Bobby Petrino out there, and they just kept finding ways to manufacture points and move the chains. So it was a fun offense, and Vanderbilt, man, look at them, 3-1, son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, soak up that 3-1 record while you can. We'll get to that in just a minute. But
hey, 3 away from a bowl game, man.
Exactly. Another SEC team, Shane, that's flying under the radar, that's doing the conference proud. Ole Miss goes on the road, just obliterates Georgia Tech 42-0. It was actually 42-0 at the end of the third quarter, Shane. They called off the dogs here, Lane Kiffin did, but man, they come right out the gate, score a touchdown, they block a punt, come score another touchdown, and it was basically over from there. And it's wild, Shane. I mean, even in these 3rd and long situations, Lane Kiffin is dialing up runs, and it, maybe that's a factor of not completely trusting Jackson Dart, even though, he made some good plays in this game. He did have one really bad interception before halftime, so I think, I think he's just got a lot more confidence in his running game, which he should. 316 rushing yards on 62 carries and 6 rushing touchdowns. I mean, this is like Georgia Bulldogs stat lines here. Ole Miss racking up 5 for 5 in the red zone for 35 points. And their duo there, Shane, Zach Evans, Judkins, 2 of the best running backs in the SEC, probably the best pair of running backs in the SEC. Do it again. Both go over 100 in this ball game, and Ole Miss is just gaining steam, brother.
Absolutely. And look at the defense. Goose egg. I mean, this is Georgia Tech. This is ABC. This is a primetime game. So they came up and came to play. People are turning this one off, man, including myself. So kudos to Ole Miss coming out there and getting the work done. But yeah, they look pretty dangerous, especially that running attack, buddy. That running back room is, I mean, it is an animal. Those are 2 animals back there, and Evans is legit. You want to talk about transfer portal get of the year? Man, that's the guy right there. That there's a lot of teams in the SEC wish they had him.
And one more cupcake, Shane. They got Tulsa, and then they welcome Kentucky. So cannot wait to see Ole Miss in conference play really get tested. That should be one hell of a game. You know what?
That could be game day, man. I mean, if Kentucky keeps winning and they do, we're going to have 2 top 10 teams.
Right. Well, let's just go right to their one, Shane. Kentucky beats Youngstown 31-0. And, man, Big Blue Nation is out on me for pointing out that they're rushing 2.9 yards per carry on Youngstown. Allowed 4 sacks. Man, this offensive line, Shane, I'm starting to feel worried because all of a sudden Florida win doesn't look as impressive. I'm not trying to completely take away from what Kentucky's done this season, but when you struggle to run against Youngstown, you struggle to run against Miami of Ohio, you struggle to run for the first half against Florida that just gave up 300 yards rushing to South Florida. I'm a little concerned, Shane, and I know Chris Rodriguez, that's everyone's pointing to that. Well, Chris Rodriguez is not in there. Well, I mean, Cavassier smoked 66 rushing yards on 15 carries. Lavelle Wright, 21 yards on 5 carries. I mean, this is not impressive at all. And it's gotten so bad where Will Levis, he's playing out of his mind. He did have 2 picks in this game. But when they get down to the goal line, Shane, and again, they're playing Youngstown State. I feel like I got to keep repeating this. When they're on the goal line, they have to throw the ball because they can't get it in. He had a 3-yard pass. He had a 2-yard pass. Both of those were touchdowns. I don't know, Shane. I mean, Kentucky, they are legit. I'm not trying to downgrade them or anything here, but this is a real issue that's got to get corrected, and their right tackle got injured in this ball game.
Yeah. I mean, because we talked about this. I don't want to act like this is the first time we've discussed Kentucky's offensive line because – the benefit of it being on so early is we really got to sit down and view what this Wildcat offense can do. And coming away from this game, 2 things you realize real quick, that Will Levis is legit because even you look at that stat line and you're like, okay, 2 picks and stuff, but the man fought for his life the entire game.
Right.
I mean, they're sending crazy amounts of pressures. Some of the windows he was throwing in, he's legit. Will Levis is legit. I like some of this receiving core. I think their offense is good. The running obviously is terrible, and the offensive line, but again, it ebbs and flows. And right now, it's just, I mean, they did good during Florida, parts of the Florida game. And I told you, even going into this thing, that's what I want to see is just a continuation of that. And we didn't get it. They were sluggish. There was a lot of breakdowns, missed blocked assignments. And it's up front. It's identifying. So, I don't know who the captain is up there, but your man's not identifying what's going on in front of them. And that the communication's breaking down for some reason.
Right.
I'm not saying Youngstown came out with a phenomenal defensive plan, but I will tell you this: Kentucky defense is also playing like crazy. You look at the Florida game. I think they gave up 12 points, 15 points. I can't remember. It's not that many points. This entire let me pull it up. I don't want to say the wrong thing here. So they gave 13 Miami, Ohio, 16 against Florida, and 0 against Youngstown State. So I will tell you this, brother. If Kentucky's defense keeps playing like they're doing right now, and Will Levis keeps balling the way he is, the offensive line sucks. Yes, the running game sucks right now, but they're still going to win and keep winning until somebody does something different or kills the quarterback, which unfortunately could happen if they keep breaking down with their formations here. So obviously Mark's not happy. I mean, they're watching the same film we are.
Right.
So hopefully they get this corrected. But once they get in the throes of the SEC, man, there is no forgiving then. And you could lose some games if your quarterback keeps getting drilled.
Yeah, and I'm glad you referenced the defense. I did want to say that real quick, Shane. They held Youngstown 0 for 10 on third down. They were flawless on third down. That's incredible. Youngstown had only 1 first down at halftime of this game. So, yeah, completely smothered old mighty Youngstown there. So we do have to credit the defense. They got the job done. You just kind of hoping the offense would do the exact same, on their. If that makes I'm stumbling here.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going.
you just kind of hope that the offense would be able to execute as well as a defense against an opponent like this, if that makes sense.
Well, and two, they got Northern Illinois coming in next week, and we got a little taste of that with Vanderbilt. And I don't, that quarterback got banged up halfway through, so I don't know if he's going to be playing. But if he does, the defense is going to have a true test this weekend. I know. Nobody's talking about Northern Illinois Huskies, but I mean, they were playing flawless at times. Of course, again, it was against Vanderbilt. But anyway, all right, I digress. I don't know what's going to happen. It's getting late. So it's one of those things. You find yourself doing that. Do you ever do that, Mike? You're like, well, they beat them. And then if they beat, because here we're talking like, well, maybe Kentucky's not that good because Florida's not, so, but whatever.
Well, speaking of cupcake eating, Shane, Alabama steamrolls Louisiana Monroe 63-7, just a complete beatdown. The only negative, Bryce Young had a couple of interceptions early, but Bama did rush for 273 yards, 7 yards per carry, took care of Terry Bowden and company. And I know you're going to tell us, Shane, you were sweating those points late in the ball game. This was your wager of the week that you won yet again.
So, yes, buddy, I was sweating this one. I was like, what am I doing? Bryce threw 2 picks. I shouldn't be watching this damn game, but I'm watching the points, and then I keep flipping over, and then something bad would happen, and then I feel like I'm the bad luck, so I stop watching it, But I want to go ahead and give my special team MVP to Brian Branch for bringing it back with a kickoff return or the punt return. So, no, it was exciting watching them come back. But, I mean, obviously this was not a game. But I will say I was happy that they cleaned it up a little bit efficiency-wise. We didn't see as many penalties as we did last week. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to take. It's 63-7, so you can't really be too judgy on Alabama.
Right.
But there was some times in this game I felt like they blew an opportunity. The defense is good. The defense looks like they've repaired themselves, and they're back to playing Alabama defense. But this offense just kind of sputtered at times. Did you notice that, or is that just me?
No, I thought so too, and that's slightly concerning after – obviously the Texas game and everything like that, but I mean, at the end of the day, you did cruise to an easy victory, but this is somewhat of a disturbing trend that you just kind of hope doesn't linger into SEC play. This is why you play these games, to iron out those issues you have.
Yeah. So maybe I'm just overreacting. That's what it is. Third week overreaction. So I mean, you won by 50-something points. Shane got his wager of the week.
That's the standard at Alabama. We're picking apart a 50-point win here.
That's the Nick Saban in me. It just wasn't enough, Mike. It just wasn't enough. We left some points out there on the field.
Now the last one here, Shane, another cupcake real quick. Missouri 34, Abilene 17. Don't got a ton to offer here, but Luther Burden scored on his very first touch. It was like an 85-yard kick return, punt return, something. I think it was a punt return. I mean, that was a hell of a play. Dominique Lovett with the